Someone pays you with a $100 bill. You check it, touch it, smell it. Everything seems in order, but there's a microscopic detail, barely perceptible, that turns that bill into a national threat. For more than a decade, one of the most secretive governments on the planet printed millions of counterfeit dollars so perfect that even US banks could not detect them. But how did they do it? And for what purpose? Imitating bills is nothing new. For centuries, counterfeiters have tried to copy coins and paper money to deceive the system. But in most cases, the fraud is obvious. Low-quality ink, paper that feels strange to the touch, colors that don't quite match. These are crude errors that any cashier, even without experience, can detect. The curious thing is that this type of scam rarely challenges a world power, until something different appeared. In the mid-1990s, $100 bills began to circulate that did not seem fake. They not only passed scanners, ultraviolet lights, and chemical tests, but also fooled banks, casinos, and even the United States Secret Service. They had the perfect texture. The sound when folded was identical. The color of the ink reacted just like in the originals. Even the paper, which is not just any paper, had the exact mix of cotton and linen that only an official US supplier can produce. When the government experts analyzed the first specimens, they were stunned. This was not just any scam. This was a state-level forgery, not because of its clumsiness, but because of its precision. And if there was someone capable of producing counterfeit dollars of that quality, they had to have access to technology, resources, and knowledge that no ordinary criminal could obtain. The question was, who and with what objective? Spoiler, it was not about making money. It was something much bigger. It all began in a bank in the Philippines in December 1989. A well-dressed man arrives at the counter with a bundle of $100 bills. He says he represents a foreign investor. Speak with confidence. Act normally. Nothing in his behavior draws attention. The cashier takes the bills and begins to check them. Everything seems in order. The texture is good, the color too. They pass the basic tests, but there is something that unsettles her. She can't say what. Maybe it's the numbering. Too clean, too perfect. Instead of approving the transaction, she decides to pass the bills to her supervisor. And then, the man changes. His calm demeanor disappears. He turns, starts to walk, and then breaks into a run. He leaves the bank without saying a word. No one sees him again. Those bills end up in Washington, D.C., in the hands of the United States Secret Service. And there begins one of the strangest investigations in recent history. First, the analysts use ultraviolet light. Then precision microscopes. Next, spectroscopic analysis to study the ink. And finally, digital review of the serial numbers. Each test separately could fail, but altogether they form an almost perfect trap for any forgery. Except this one, because what they found made no sense. The paper was identical to the real one. The fibers, the ink, the embossing, everything matched. How was it possible? The answer was not in the laboratories. It was on the other side of the world, and would soon start to appear. In the following years, the counterfeit bills, the super dollars, began to appear all over the world, but not in street markets or small-time scams. Rather, these bills were reaching European banks, casinos in Hong Kong, and even currency exchange offices within international airports. They all shared the same traits. Technical perfection and the same microscopic errors. Always the same ones. That was what alerted the intelligence agencies. No amateur counterfeiter makes the exact same mistake over and over again. Again and again. In 1994, 5 North Korean diplomats were detained in Africa with more than $400,000 in counterfeit bills. 2 years later, a woman with a North Korean passport was intercepted in Cambodia with a suitcase full of the same bills. And so, one after another, the cases began to fit together. But here comes the unsettling part. The bills were not meant to enrich those who carried them. It was not an operation to scam tourists or launder money on a small scale. It was something systematic, ongoing, almost governmental. And then a name emerged that for decades had been merely a rumor. Room 39. A secret office located in Pyongyang, hidden inside a gray building without signs, without windows. It doesn't even appear on the official North Korean government maps. It was said that from there, the regime's shadiest operations were financed. But what happened in that place went far beyond printing money, because Room 39 did not operate alone. On the outskirts of Pyongyang, guarded by watchtowers, concrete walls, and motion sensors, lies a facility known as Plant 62. From the air, it looks like just another industrial building. But inside it's a war printing press. There, under military surveillance, operate some of the most advanced machines on the planet. 70-ton intraglio printers, identical to those used by the US Department of the Treasury. The same technology, the same special ink, the same type of paper. An exact blend of cotton and linen, obtained through shell companies in Hong Kong under false orders for luxury stationery. But the most brilliant and perverse part was not the imitation. It was that the bills included intentional microscopic flaws designed by the counterfeiters themselves. For what purpose? To be able to distinguish their superdollars from those of other imitators, like a secret signature embedded in each copy. No one else could copy the copier. And when the United States redesigned its bills in 1996 to prevent further leaks, North Korea responded just 2 years later with a counterfeit version of the new bills, even with the special color-changing ink, supposedly impossible to obtain. Thus, Kim Jong-un's regime turned the United States currency into a silent weapon. Each counterfeit bill not only financed the regime, but also weakened confidence in the dollar. It was a form of invisible warfare, without bombs, without missiles, but with real damage. And just when it seemed there was no way to stop them, the United States did something unexpected. In 2005, the United States government stopped pursuing bills and started pursuing bank accounts. The Treasury Department targeted a small bank in Macau, Banco Delta Asia. There, in a few hours, they froze $25 million directly linked to the North Korean regime. It might seem little, but that money was vital. It allowed embassies, agents, technology, political favors to be paid. It was the nervous system of the regime's foreign operations. The message was clear. If you wanted to play with the most powerful currency in the world, you could also drown in it. Within weeks, banks across Asia cut their ties with North Korea. No one wanted to be labeled as an accomplice, and the regime for the first time felt the blow. Not with soldiers, not with threats, but with zeros frozen on a screen. Ironically, all this started with an obsession: printing dollars without permission. And it ended with North Korea trapped by the same financial system it was trying to sabotage. Today, every new bill, every security thread, every special ink is part of that silent war. Because money, although it seems like just paper, can also be a battlefield. And now that you know this story, how many more things do you think we use every day without knowing who really controls them? If this video surprised you, share it. Because the next time you receive a $100 bill, you might start seeing it differently. So now you know. For years, one of the most isolated countries on the planet printed millions of counterfeit dollars, and almost no one noticed. It wasn't just any scam. It was an intelligence operation. Precise, silent, lethal. And the most unsettling part is that it worked. The dollar was their weapon, and the financial system, their battlefield. Not with explosives, but with printers. Not with hackers, but with paper. And while the world looked the other way, the bills kept changing hands. This is not just a story about counterfeit money. It is a warning. Because in an era where everything can be replicated, what is truly valuable is no longer what is seen, but what is not noticed. If this video made you see things differently, share it. And tell us, do you think this was the only time someone tried to win a war without firing a single bullet?